All right. Well, thank you and welcome everyone joining us from Kigali here. But glad that everyone is here. Welcome everyone to Sober Sunday and the conversation that started last week. Very intense, a lot of things that we were talking about, and we want to continue with that today. And I want to reintroduce the panel. Let me start with the gentleman today, Pastor James Okumu. You're a name that is known, Jemo, as I like to call you. You're known, you're in the media, you're dealing with a lot of technology. You're a pastor as well, the senior pastor at Destiny Chapel. So welcome, say hi to us, and then we can move on.
Great, asante sana. Thank you for the invitation to be here again. Last week we had a wonderful time and got some great feedback from some of the people from my side who are watching. And we are thankful that we can have these conversations because they are enriching people and just directing people in the right direction that they need to go where life and family is concerned. So I'm grateful to be here again.
All right, thank you and welcome. Let me proceed with Washeke. Washeke Duati is known to many of you around financial services. She is a founder and director of Centonomy Limited, author of Making Sense, a book that I've read and enjoyed, and she's been doing a program that she's going to mention. But welcome, Washeke. I think the program started, right? But say more, a little more about yourself before you say about the program.
Thank you, Pastor Simon. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and glad to be back here. Looking forward to more conversations about money and money to do with us. And because of that, what is now being transferred on to our children and how we actually deal with that. Money, as I like quoting, even I quoted in the book, it's a tool for the life that we may want to have, but it is not the life. So this is all about getting our relationship and our balance and our identity about money, right? So glad to be here, part of the conversation. The programs Simon, you're talking about actually starts next week, so I'll talk about it later. So
all right, excellent. Yeah. Welcome, Washeke. Then we have Dr. Carol Chakua. She has been our friend for a long time. We've done some things together to transform nations. She's an author of a book that she's going to be talking about, but she's a parenting coach as well. And she's a psychologist. Yeah, I think I'm right, PhD psychology. So she understands a lot of these things that we're talking about from that perspective. So Daktari, karibu.
Asante sana, Pastor Simon. Such an honor to be here. I hope I'm loud enough. Yes, being the second week, we had a really great evening last Sunday, and I'm looking forward to another interactive session. I am really passionate about, really my first passion is children, but I realized I was working with children and giving them such great influencing them in such a positive way, and then they would go back to the same environment that brought them to my space as a therapist in the first place. And so I have really transitioned to working with parents to just get them to really understand what's going on with themselves, what's going on with their children, how do we create the right environment so that I do not have to be given those kids to fix. So that because when we have parents with the right tools in their hands, very few children need to go for therapy. And so I'm really passionate about giving those tools, getting those tools to parents, very practical everyday tools so that they can be effective in creating that right environment. So I'm really looking forward to this session this evening once again. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much. And I like what you're saying about just, creating the kind of environment where our children are going to grow, right? So we're going to have a conversation. Today I'm co-hosting with my good, beautiful wife here, Sophia. And I just want to ask her also to introduce herself. And I want to invite all of you as we talk about parenting today and the different areas that you'll be sending comments and questions, and Sophia is going to be picking that out for us, and she's going to be sharing with us as we continue the discussion. Sophia, she's an educator, she's many things. I know a lot more things than I need to say, but you go ahead and say what you need to say. We can't hear you, you're still muted. Okay.
Yes, sorry, yeah. So good evening, everyone. It's good to be here and to carry on with our conversations on parenting. I actually work with, I'm an educator, I run a school, and so this topic is very, very close to my heart. It is actually what I do for a living, and pretty much identifying with what Dr. Carol has said, that you deal with the children. And then you realize that there's somebody else that needs to be influenced so that your work can be complete. So I'm an educator by passion, by calling, by training, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you and welcome all.
Well, thank you. I think this was so good last time that we just couldn't stop, and then time cut us out. So we'll delve into it. James, we want to start with you by doing a very quick summary, because we're not going to delve very deep into technology. We talked a bit about it. For those of you who have joined us, we are talking about discipline, the 5 areas of parenting nowadays, which is a great challenge. So we're talking about discipline, we're talking about technology and the media, we're talking about finances. We talked a lot about community and connection last time. And then we are going to delve deeper today into moral values. So today we'd like to focus a lot more on discipline, finances, and moral values. But before we move on to that, technology and media, with so much coming at our children and around parenting, James, what are some of the things that you would say before we proceed with the rest?
I think one of the main things that parents need to understand is that the media space has changed and continues to change. It's not what it was when we were growing up. So sometimes we tend to look at how things were when we were our children's age, and we come from that perspective, but things have really changed. And things are changing every 2 or 3 months. New ideas are coming up, new media platforms are coming up. A lot of information is being dispensed on these media platforms. And for a parent who is not at par with what is happening, it's very easy for them not to know what their children access. And I think what we need to realize, even as we'll be talking about values and all these other things, is that, you know, media brings information, and that information creates a belief, and those beliefs create values. And those values are what our children subscribe to, not necessarily what we've taught them, because even for us parents, we are so busy, we are hardly with our children. And so they have a lot of time with these screens. And these screens are presenting a type of life that they want to be a part of. You know, this screen is giving them a lot of pressure in terms of wanting to belong, a fear of missing out. And all these things our children are being bombarded with them. As parents, if you have no idea what your children are watching, you wake up one day and you wonder whose kids are this, because they've received so much information and they want to act it out, they want to live it out. And the other thing we shared last week is that media has so changed that today children don't wait for media to watch. They create their own media. And they'll create their own media based on the values they have embraced and based on the belief system that they have adhered to. And so you have all sorts of things that are coming out, you know, and we have a media space today that is paying if people watch your content. And the crazier your content is, unfortunately, the more people will watch your content. And so that also becomes another driving force. You know, children want to get into that space. A lot of young people want to be YouTube stars. They want to be TikTok celebrities. You know, they want to have as many people as possible on Instagram. I mean, just today I was in town over lunchtime trying to grab a bag of chips, you know, to have something for lunch before I head on home. And the number of young people I saw with cameras taking photographs was unbelievable. You would think there's an event happening somewhere. If it is not serious cameras, it is their phones. And what is this? They're creating their own media that they can post on Instagram or on all these other platforms that have come up, because Everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be followed. Everybody wants to be famous. And the more crazier photographs or videos, the more likes and the more people watch and the more people follow. So as parents, we need to keep tabs with what we're exposing our children to. I see a lot of younger parents today using the screens to soothe their children. You get home and the child is crying and the first thing you give them is the phone. You're setting them up for something that will become a huge problem when they become teenagers. So as parents, we need to keep tabs with the media space. What is new? What is changing? What are our children watching? Because otherwise then they'll get swallowed into all these things and we will have no idea what is happening to them.
Yeah. I like it what you're saying, because we need to keep tabs. We need to make sure we understand what's going on. I also like what you said, the crazier, the more they're going to get following. So they keep making it crazier over and over again so that they get a lot more following. So there's a lot there we need to deal with. Dr. Caro, I think as we talk about that, then we're talking about morals, how media then and morals, the values that our children are catching up, how those interact. And maybe you can just go ahead and mention something around that.
Yes, and when we talk about morals, we're talking about what we regard as right or wrong, and that at the end of the day has everything to do with our values, really. And values is what I regard as important to me as a parent. I think where we are floundering a lot as parents is not being able to to have clarity of values, just clear. What do I believe in? And why do I believe it? Is it because it was passed down to me? Or is it because I really just have a deep conviction? We cannot pass values unless we have a really very deep conviction about them. And so sometimes even when I'm working with parents, I tell them, let's not aim for perfection. I know we are told that we need to be role models and values are taught, not taught, okay? Sometimes we can find ourselves getting so caught up in trying to perfect ourselves first before we pass on these values that we get stuck. So I usually, even for me, as I work, as I try to pass down whatever values that I regard as important, I try to aim for conviction. Like I really want to be able to be convicted about what it is I'm passing down to my son, as opposed to, am I perfect in it yet, or have I gotten it right? So even as we're thinking about moral values, we are striving to do what is righteous. We are striving to do what we believe in, but let's not wait until we have perfected it for us to be able to get there. And so sometimes we let's have conversations, especially with our preteens and teenagers, about our own struggles in the different spaces and say, look, let's work on this together. Okay, that vulnerability is very good because it makes us human when it comes to passing down those values. So I think about clarity of values, being very clear about what it is we believe. I think about being vulnerable and not aiming for perfection, but knowing that still they are watching us. And they're watching us. What they are learning from us is not just how perfect we are at these things, but our capability to learn from our own mistakes and to learn from our own failures. And even as we are passing them down to our children, let's be more of a journey of let's go alongside together, as opposed to I'm here and this is what I'm telling you to do, and it's either my way or the highway.
Yeah, I think a lot of our parents.
If I can just answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and add on to something that Dr. Chari has said. Talking about clarity where our values are concerned. When we're not clear about our values, then it means we begin to allow almost everything. My pastor once taught me a statement. He said, what you allow, you will eventually accept. And a lot of what parents don't realize is that a lot of values are being passed on through the media in the form of entertainment. It comes in as entertainment. We laugh about it. There's nothing wrong with it, but we keep watching it over and over and over. And there are certain subtle values that are being passed on in a lot of the things we are calling entertainment. And when we see it so many times, because we see it, we embrace it, we accept it. And even when we see it in the society, it's not really a big deal because we are so used to seeing it on the screen. And when it creeps into our home, then we wonder, how did it get here? But the issue is, it was entertaining you. Somebody told me that entertainment is something that holds you captive long enough until it enters you, and you yourself then begin to act it out.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe Sophie is going to say, but there are a lot of schools which are struggling with kids cursing. And part of it is what they hear in the media all the time. And, I went to one school, outside of the country, and they had to put a jar somewhere where they put, some money there. Every time you curse as a child, you put, some money in there. And it was full. And where do they get this? It's really what they hear in the media. But Washeke, as we talk about values, money is not just about itself. It's really about the values that we hold. And there are some values that we hold that we are passing on to our kids, which are not useful for their money management.
Pastor Simon, I like that you started there, because even with money, the first place which is very hard for parents sometimes to do, is to investigate ourselves. Because the first place children are learning from, and in Centronomy, we teach teenagers and we teach young adults in university. And this comes across. Where did you learn? And at this age, especially the teenagers, the biggest influence is their parents. The biggest influence is their parents, because they don't yet have their own disposable income to go and figure it themselves out and where they'll spend it on. So the biggest influence is their parents. And before we try, and we can't pass on things that we are not doing. So we've got to start challenging, what do we believe about money? Because whether you say it or not, they're going to do what you're doing. So even the way we talk to our kids, and some of the mistakes, even in the teenagers class, we hear from teenagers are when they ask for money, the response from their parents. So sometimes they're made to feel really bad for asking. And where is that coming from? Maybe that parent, that was what happened to them. So you know how sometimes we say we don't want to be like our mothers or our fathers, but if we're not purposeful about it, we will become, we want to take the best of our parents, but also be able to challenge what is not working. And sometimes they've learned the opposite. Maybe because you were brought up in where you saw your parents struggling or money was tight, you decided to protect your children from that. So that fear of your children going through what you went through leads you into the opposite direction where you're just giving and giving. So it's important that we all, first of all, for ourselves, start understanding where is the story? What is the story? What I like calling it in our classes, what is the story about money in your head? And go back and ask yourself, what happened when I was 7 years old? Because I have found, and I'm no psychologist, Dr. Carol can correct me, I'm no psychologist, I'm just talking from experience. Even for me, the things I remember that when I was very young, they impacted me somehow. Why do I remember an incident from when I was 7 years old, when I was 10 years old, what the teacher said when I was 8 years old? So there are some things that we remember for a reason. So I'd like anybody listening here, just to go back to your first money experiences. What did they teach you? It could even be, how was the rich uncle treated? How was the not so rich uncle treated in your house? So that created a belief that when the rich uncle came, you could see how people were acting. And then the other uncle was told to go through the back door. So you could see there's a difference. Why? And it's the car the uncle came in, or the job title the uncle had, and there was all this attention. So what did you learn? To get respect, I need money. So you don't realize it, but your child is learning from that. Yeah. They can tell when you have money, you feel better about yourself. They can hear what you're saying to your friends. They can tell the situations when you don't have money, you're feeling bad about yourself and you're shrinking. So your child is learning that. So before we move on to our children, we've got to really investigate what baggage, what financial baggage are we carrying. It doesn't only affect our children, Simon, it also affects our relationships, because two people have come into the relationship with combined baggage. So the poor children are the ones absorbing double baggage. Because even in just relationships, we never talk about where is our financial story coming from. And that's why there's so much conflict even in that. And the poor children are the ones who have to figure it out. And then after you, the next stage is just what James has been talking about. They are going to be influenced by what they see. Yeah. So I think it's time we also remove our heads from the clouds and immerse ourselves in their world a bit so that we can understand it. Yeah. Because no longer can we just say, you're going to grow up, you're going to be architect, doctor, banker. We cannot do that and say, these are the career trajectory. This is what we have outlined for you. Yeah. Because I've seen so many young people rebelling against what their parents have told them. They've told them, you're going to go be a lawyer. Some of them at 13, they've already been told they're going to be a lawyer because your grandfather was a lawyer, I was a lawyer, and you and what. But as James is saying, they are like, I want to be a YouTube influencer. So if we don't understand that world and immerse, so that even when we are giving them guidance, we can speak their language. Because if we speak to them from a point of condemnation, like how dare you want to be a influencer, it's just not going to work, because when they go to school, they're just going to hear that. So they spend 1 hour with you at breakfast and then 8 hours in school. And that is the message they are hearing in school, or they have a phone. That is the message. So we've got to do that. And maybe it's time for us to start understanding what is their world going to look like, and start really understand, because it's not going to look like our world. All parents since time immemorial always speak the talk of in our day. And us as parents, and I'm guilty of this, we are also stuck there. In my day, when I was 10 years old, we dared never ask those kind of questions, but my son he's 10 years old and he's asking them. So we've got to understand they're living in a world where they're going to be multidimensional. They may be a lawyer, but they may be an influencer too. They may be a DJ at night. They may also be an artist over the weekend. And we've got to enter their world, because maybe the opportunity also does look different for them. So it's just maybe teaching them, taking them down the road of what is purpose. Yeah. So I'm not going to get you stuck on being a lawyer, but what is purpose? So even you're a DJ with purpose. Or you're a DJ who knows how to run a DJ business, or you're a DJ still promoting good values through music. So we've got to just remove our heads out of the box and start understanding their world a bit different, so that we can come and understand what are those. The values are always the same, but they may be reflected differently. Hard work may be reflected differently. COVID has already moved us from 8 to 5. Yeah. So the fact that somebody is asleep early in the morning may not be a bad thing, because they were at work till 3 a.m. So I think what the hard work for us as parents is to really understand their context, and then understand what we are also doing to contributing to some of those wrong messages. Yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe we'll come to Sophie a bit. I like what you're saying, because we're also saying for these values and, James, it's hard for some of us parents, with what we knew about careers, for your daughter to tell you that she wants to be a hype lady, or your son to say, I want to be a hype man. You're just thinking, what is this?
Very true. The other day I was doing my radio show, and we were talking about how sometimes as parents we want to force our dreams on our children. So because I wanted to be a lawyer, lakini Max ilikata, my son has to be a lawyer. And there's a lady who texted in and she said, Pastor, can you imagine my son says he wants to be a gamer? I don't even know what that is over my dead body. And I told her, my friend, do you know how much money gamers are making? You just do your research first. Before under pressure sana, just find out what it is and have a sober conversation with your child, because it may be something totally different than what you think. So those are real challenges we are facing today.
You need to tell the parents listening, what are gamers? So that they also don't ask.
Gamers are basically people who just they play video games professionally online. Simple. It's really, they play video games. And they get paid some serious chunk of change
to train the other people as people watch, because I see my kids sometimes watching those gamers.
Pastor Simon, can I just add something to that? Something I've been thinking about. I think when you see all these things that these kids are interested in, gamers, PlayStation, and because it's calling out to something in them, the creatives in them, the exploratory person in them. So I think the way we teach, even teach values, and I'll even go in so far and saying even the church, we no longer can go to kindergarten and sing Father Abraham forever. Yeah, it's a nice song, but your competition is PlayStation. So even as the church and people of the church who possess these gifts, there should be a PlayStation, build Noah's Ark, game, things like that. So we've got to, even as a church, be able to play on that level, because when they go up after singing Father Abraham, they play PlayStation. So I think it's time for all of us to change when we're teaching children, even the education system itself.
That's excellent. And Dr. Kara, we'll come to you about parenting the heart, but Sophie, just as you're dealing with students in schools, what are some of the things you're realizing? Because soon we're going to shift to discipline, because discipline and values go together. One is enforcing the other. But Sophie, what are some of the challenges you're seeing with your interaction with kids in school, especially?
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Thanks, all of you. I'm just... I got stuck at playing games on video professionally. Yani, that sentence there in itself is mind-boggling for me. I didn't know that you could play professional gaming. Now I know. I am duly educated. So what are some of the challenges I'm facing? I think a lot of exposure that is it's wild, it's not tamed, it's not, and I'll just go back to something about somebody said, I can't remember who of you said, about immersing ourselves in the world of the children and understanding what they're saying. Because honestly, I think in the when I deal with children, I realize that their conversations are full of terms and phrases that they do not understand. They don't know. I remember one time, a child being brought to my office, and we have a thing in our institution about using foul language, and they had been using the F word. And I sat this child down and I said, okay, can you tell me what this word that you're using, what it means? And I realized that that child did actually not know the definition of the F word or what it implies. She was telling me, I think it's just like saying, oh my goodness, or oh my gosh, So when I sat down with them and I told them, this is what this word means, and when you say it literally, this is what, and the child was just shocked. And I think that was a light bulb moment for me, which then said to me that a lot of the things that these kids are talking about, they don't even understand what they are saying. And I think from then on, I actually decided to start, immersing myself into my kids' world, because that's also the world that I deal with. So found out who are the people that they're interested in, in terms of influencers, pop stars. and I would actually go on Google these people, who are they, and then we'd actually sit down and watch, and I would learn some of those songs, and I would download the lyrics, and we go through those lyrics with the children. And then I'm telling them, this is actually what it means, because a lot of the words that are in songs are coded. And if you don't know, as a parent, you'll just be listening to something very vulgar and not even be aware of it.
You may think it's a worship song, you know, James.
Germany. Yes. But it's very vulgar. The language is coded. You know, they are talking about sugar, but I can tell you it's not the sugar that you put in your tea. It is something else. I tell you. And so just breaking it down to our children and saying, okay, so this is what this actually means. And then saying, is this what you want to identify yourself with? You know, is this what we stand for? So I think as parents, we just must, and in parenting these days, you think that you're the one parenting the children, but I think I don't parent as a lot. It's a two-way street, because we are parenting out of our depth. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Parenting out of our depth completely. We have no clue. We cannot, even those things like Washeke is saying that it used to be, I tell you, they're irrelevant right now, because the kids can't get it. They can't get what that means. And it is us then to step into their world so that we can help them interpret what is the value system, debrief the messages and see, do they measure up to our values? And do I take them in or do I throw them out? So, yeah.
Wow, this can be scary for some of the people, but we've got to go on, and I want to just say to all of you who have tuned in, some of our programs at Transform Nations have actually begun. This week we have just begun Man Enough and Ezra, and all the details are on our social media pages. And so feel free to come on in or to register. In the next week or so, we're going to close the registration for the men. We've had quite a few men coming as we work together with the Man Enough program. So just want to invite you, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on our page, and the people are going to answer your questions. So the different programs, EZA is a Woman Enough equivalent, and we have Man Enough that has begun. So again, welcome to sign up. And soon we're going to be told by Washeke what else they are doing. But maybe before she says, Dr. Carol, you can just say, briefly, what does parenting the heart mean? You use it a lot.
Yes, I use it a lot. I've been sitting and listening to each one of you talking, and I put myself in the seat of the parent. And one of the things you have said, Pastor Simon, is these things can be scary. So some we sit, we are parenting with definitely we've all agreed very, very different times. And there's a lot of fear, because this is completely uncharted waters, even as Pastor Sophie said, completely out of our depth. And we can come into this with a lot of fear. And one of the things I've realized, even working with parents, is that because of the times we are living in, it's really undermined the confidence of the parent. They're just completely like, I don't think I can do this. So yes, I have a 12-year-old. I just have one son, but I cannot keep up with what is going on and everything that he is doing, and as much as I want to. And one day he'll say, I'll be calling him, maybe he's at his dad's, and I'm like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm doing good, brah. And I'm like, okay, please, could you just address me? I am your mother, We're really, really out of our depth. And it's very easy. It's very easy for your confidence to be eroded as a parent, because it's unfamiliar ground for us. So parenting with the heart for me is really just being able to acknowledge that the times that we are living in, the space that we are living in, is not easy, and that we are coming into this with an open-minded, with an open mind of let me learn. But even as I am learning, because am I growing as my child is growing? Am I opening myself up to new experiences? And what is going on with me? When I hear all these things, how am I feeling? Like even now, as we are listening, wherever we are listening from, how are you feeling? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling fearful? Or are you feeling confident? Because a lot of these other negative emotions are the ones that undermine our confidence. And we have to be aware of those things that are undermining our confidence so that we're able to process them, work through them, and remember that we are still the person in authority. Remember that you're still the one who has the most influence over your child. And I can't say that enough. You parent, no matter what's going on, you still have the voice of influence over your child. But the reason you're not feeling the reason you're not feeling confident, it's because of all these other noises. So parenting with the heart is just beginning to be more aware of the good, the bad, the ugly, and being able to separate. But even as I'm separating that and I'm working through that, I am still holding on to myself, as I like to use the word, the captain of the ship or the captain of the flight. I show up with confidence. I show up calmly, not yelling and all over the place. Because sometimes what happens is that you hear a bunch of teenagers, run away from home, okay? And it's all over the news. So the first thing you do, the first thing that happens to you is the fear. And so you take that fear, you swallow it, you own it, then you run home. And then you start telling your children, that's when you start coming up with new rules. Okay. Now I want to look at all your screens. New rules here. You know, like when I was growing up, every time, and this is a money message, Washeke, every time the budget was read and the price of bread was increased, my mom would come home and say, no more bread. So we eat ngwashe. We used to eat ngwashe ndoma for a week. Then the next day, we are back to bread. Yeah. And that's what we do even in other spaces. You know, you hear something has happened and you come. And most of us parents, we are reactive and we are not responsive. I mean, we shouldn't be in a hurry to do stuff. Okay, you're the captain of your ship. You're the one who is in charge. You're the one who is in authority. And if you're able to work through the fear and the anxiety, which are a normal part and a normal process as part of parenting, because we don't know new in this. Okay, so if you're able to work through that and begin to receive wisdom. And I usually tell parents, sometimes I have a moment with my son at 12, and I actually have no idea what to do in that moment. And it's very easy for me to raise my voice higher and kick him out of the room and say, do not talk to me like that. But do you know what I do? Sometimes I just take a deep breath in and I say a silent prayer and I keep saying, God, I'm receiving wisdom from you right now because I don't know what to do. Okay. And so when I do that, then I'm able to act like the person who is in charge, at least between the two of
like the parent.
Yes, like the parent who is in charge. So for me, in a nutshell, I could talk a lot about what it means to parent with a heart in mind, but it's just about more self-awareness, more calmness, knowing that you're still in charge and being able to sort through the muck, to release the fear, to release the anxiety, to receive wisdom, to receive courage, to receive boldness as you keep going. And that's what I really talk about in the book, Parenting with Your Heart in Mind.
Yeah. So manage yourself, basically. And you said your book is available. So in your social media channels?
Yes, drcaro.co.ke. If you go, that's my website. You go there, the shop tab, you will be able to shop, you'll be able to get it. It's also on Amazon, both as paperback and Kindle. So for those in diaspora, and it can also be found actually on Raffle Books and Africa Book Hub. They also have it as well. But drcaro.co.ke, you get it directly as well.
Excellent. Okomo, you had a good laugh. We're going to come to you, but Washeke, tell us about the program. You're starting next week, and just some of the
Yes.
ways that it helps the parents know how to manage themselves as a parent their children.
Okay. I think many people faced with money, they face, I shouldn't be in this situation. I should have known better. And even why I started Centonomy, first of all, I worked in the bank. I was working, helping people buy and sell shares on the stock market. I was managing pension funds at some point. So you would think somebody who has been doing that has got their money act together. But no, because sometimes our knowledge and what is going on in our life does not translate. And I think a lot of people feel like that. Yeah. And they carry the weight of, I should be, I'm 30 years old, or I'm 40 years old, or I'm 50 years old, I should be in a better place. Or this is the education I got, I should be in a better place. This is opportunity. So we carry a lot of shame about our finances. And remember, nobody actually taught us. So that's why we want to do better for ourselves so that we can do better for our kids. Yeah. So first of all, so Centonomy 101, it starts this coming week. And it helps you. There are many topics all the way from your budgets, your understanding your debt, understanding how to plan for goals, different types of investments, up to estate planning. But in a nutshell, it helps you, first of all, understand what is happening with your money now. What is going on? Where is the money going? So instead of wondering where your money went, we empower you to be able to tell your money where to go instead. Yeah. So putting you on the other side of the equation. What are the things that are holding you back? What are you hanging on to? And we can uncover some of those beliefs. Then we go through, what do you want to change? Because even before we get, if I'm in Langata and I want to go to the airport, I really need to know I'm fast in Langata. I can't be guessing, am I in Langata or Kilimani or Westlands? Yeah, I have to know I'm in Langata. So we help you identify. Then what do you want to happen? And those is what we call goals, and with your life in general. And then how do you make it happen? So the different types of investments. And so you come out with an actual concrete plan. And I think what it does is also start shifting identity, because separating yourself from your money. Yes, you are in debt, but that's not your identity. So once you learn to separate that, then you can deal with the debt. And I think even for our kids, once they see us having a separate identity from money, then they won't become a prisoner of money or a slave of money. Money can come and go, and money will always be up and down throughout everybody's life. But it's just understanding how to actually deal with that. And we also have a similar course for those in business, so that they can understand all this in the business language as well, and what it means for their business. So the classes are starting next week. You can get all the information on centonomy.com. And even information about the book is there as well. The book is it's just bringing this money discussion so that you feel you're not alone. You will read a story in that book, whether it's my story, which is laid out, whether it's Douglas, whether it's Faith, whether it's Dishon, and you will relate in some way. And whatever you're going through with the money, please know you're not alone. It's just that people don't talk about it. But really, really, you're not alone. So the book is a storybook of Kenyans, Africans, so that you can say, I've not written from someone in another context, in this same economy, and what they've done, and even just all the things we've been talking about from childhood, how it then affected them when they were 35 years old, so that you can use the book as a workbook to work through, to sit by yourself and work through. I have teenagers, as I said last week, and 10-year-old, my son has read it and understood it because it's written like a storybook. So and your kids past a certain age can actually read it.
Well, thank you. Centonomy.com.
The book is also on Amazon. Let me just add what Carol, and everything, Rafu Books as well, Africa Book Hub, and Bookstop at Yaya Center as well.
It looks like I need to go to Amazon as well, from what I'm hearing. But a few people here saying they have tuned in. Joseph, we see you, Pastor Ferdinand, and Dolo as well, and Philip K. John. Awesome team, James Okumu, your morning programs on Hope FM. Touch Me from 2008 and changed my life. Upon joining UON in 2010, you were the guest speaker during the orientation week. May God continue using you. Mr. Okumu, That's Philip there saying jumbo to you and acknowledging your impact on them. But let's shift. We're going to come to you and then come to Sophie about discipline. You know, there's a lot of talk that kids have gotten out of control. I mean, where are the parents when they're cheating on exams, when the teenage boys and girls are doing what they're doing, and teenage pregnancy is increasing? Where are the parents?
Wow. I think one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, where are they learning these things from? You know, because you may be making a lot of noise about a habit that your child has gotten into, only for you to realize that you're actually the one who taught it to them. You know, you bribe the policeman on the road and you expect your son not to cheat in their exams. It's the same thing. You know, you may look at your situation as convenience, but there's a lesson you're teaching children. And children observe how we interact with the world and how we interact with one another. And they copy that. And, you know, if you did it at 5%, they'll do it at 15% or 20%. They will enhance what they saw in you. And so as parents, sometimes before we blow off the roof, we need to look at ourselves first and ask ourselves, what am I teaching them? What am I teaching them in the way that I do life, in the way that I behave, in the way that I treat their mother, in the way that I treat the neighbors, in the way that I interact with the community? What am I teaching my children? Because they're picking those lessons and they're acting out those lessons in the different spheres of life that they find themselves in. But also matters discipline. I always tell parents that you can't discipline a child for something you never taught them.
Yeah.
You have to be there to teach them first. Teach them the right thing to do. And then even when you go back to the book of Genesis, you know, before God reprimanded Adam and Eve for eating the fruit, he had to tell them first that there's a tree, everything else you can eat, but this one, no go zone. So that when they did it, then there's a point of reference. Didn't I tell you not to? Why did you? Because sometimes I find as parents, we are so quick to discipline, but we never ask ourselves, have we taught them the right thing to do? Or is this the very thing we have taught them, but yet we discipline them for doing it? You know, and then even in matters of discipline, you know, we have to be consistent. Because sometimes as parents, we are not consistent. Or sometimes we issue threats that we don't follow through with. And so
we have
our
no
children
intention,
know us.
or we have no intention to follow through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they know which buttons to push. And so the most important thing is we need to be there. We need to be there to teach, and we need to be there to guide and to correct and to walk with our children, whether it is values or whatever other thing we need to teach them. First of all, we have to be present. We cannot teach them by remote control. We cannot place them in the hands of others to teach them. And then when they do the bad thing, we discipline them. But maybe that's the bad thing they were taught to do. And now we are coming back to discipline them. You know, so we need to be present. Present, values, teach by example, teach orally, teach by directing, because I've realized this, that as parents, if we do that from the get-go, looking at my own children, you know, from the get-go, there are certain things we have taught them. Like missing church is strange in my house. It is so strange to miss church. When COVID hit, we were thinking, how are we going to live? How are we going to survive? Because it's just the way we do life. And from an early age, you know, we were there to teach them, this is right, this is wrong. This you can do, this you can't do. This one you're not sure, let's talk about why you're not sure. By the time they get into teenagehood and adulthood, then some things we don't even talk about because it is so set in their hearts and in their lives, because we began with them when they were young. Train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart.
They will not depart from it.
Adult. Yet when they were young, we were never there. And so we have to be present to be able to teach our children and to be able to discipline them when the leader arises.
All right. I think, thanks, Pastor James, for that very insightful contribution. I think I want to, the whole topic of discipline is really a wide area. I think it deserves a session on its own for us to really be able to do justice to it. But I think let me bring a perspective of what are the formative years. They say that the formative years for a child also coincide with their school going age, years. By the time a child is out of secondary school, and in our context, that is about anywhere from about 18. Sometimes children are getting out now when they're 17 because they begin early. But safely, we can say from around 18. And then when do they go to school? From around 3. So by the time a child is 18, they have spent 70% of their entire life in school. And that is your waking up hours from 8 to, I see buses picking up children in my city from early as 6 o'clock, 5:45, and they come back very, very late. Maybe sometimes even like quarter. So children are out of the house, like maybe 9 hours out of the 12 daytime hours that we have. And so that happens 5 days a week out of 7 days. Then it happens 9 months a year out of 12 months. That is a pretty long time. And so what I will tell parents, therefore, is that please consider that the school environment is your child's other family. And the child's teachers are actually your co-parents. You may not have recognized them as that, but they're the ones who are significantly influencing your children for about 70% of the time. And so how do you choose your your school, the school that your child goes to? You must look at more than marks, surely, because at the end of the day, if you have good marks and no character, you will cry. You will cry premium tears, as Kenyans like to say. The other thing about discipline, you cannot talk about discipline without authority and without the understanding of authority. And Carol did talk about it, Dr. Carol. She talked about retaining your authority. And when we say retaining your authority, we're saying, do you have the moral authority to tell your son or your daughter not to walk a certain path? And moral authority is gained by you being a credible witness of the thing that you're asking and expecting your child to do. A lot of us have lost moral authority with our children because either we are not available to answer their questions, either we are preaching water and drinking wine. So there is no congruence between our talk and our walk. And the other thing is that, and now talking as a practitioner in the education sector, parents undermine their co-parents very much, when it comes to school and teachers. So you'll find, a parent, not and making this child understand that, in my absence as a parent when you're in school, consider this as the person that I have entrusted you to. As a co-parent, you must respect your teachers. So where there is no understanding of authority, where there is no understanding of respect, then you're going to have major discipline problems. So that is what I'd like to say about that.
Well, thank you very much, Sophie. It's interesting how time flies. We are almost coming towards the end, and we haven't really said much. As we said, I think we need, and I think that's why we have these seminars in different places. James, that's why you have these conversations on the media, like throughout the week, because there's so much that we need to learn. And that's part of the reason why at Transformed, and we do these trainings. Like for fathers, we're actually starting Intentional Dad this Monday. And again, that information is available. And these are some of the things we talk about, is how to understand ourselves, how to understand the children, how to help them through life. And we do these programs to equip you as parents so that you're not overwhelmed. So we want to welcome you to be part of that. We're grateful for those of you who have made lots of comments. I want to read two here, and then we'll take a round of just commenting on you may choose any of the 5 areas as we come towards a close. But Willie Ortiz says the discussion is quite informative. So much insight being shared. Thanks for the initiative. Moindi Sarah said, wow, we need to immerse ourselves in the children's world and decode the messages so they understand the right values, even for themselves. So again, parents, please get these books, join in these trainings that we are doing, and let's continue to grow ourselves. So much more we need to learn. We cannot do justice. Read more and get trained as well. James Okumo, what are some of the comments you would make around these topics from where you every week with parents?
I think as parents, let's not allow ourselves to get to that place where we are overwhelmed because of all these things that are coming up and the things that are happening. Because if we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed, then who will be the one to direct our children, to minister to our children, to raise them up? A lot is happening, yes. We make mistakes, yes. But I think the encouragement I can give to parents is that you're not alone. Let's keep having conversations. Learn and grow. Learn and grow. There's no other way. Sometimes we look at the opportunities we've lost or the mistakes we've made with our children, and it can get so overwhelming that you don't do anything else. You make the situation even worse than it was before. So parents, like all these platforms we are talking about, there's information there. Conversations like this. If you go online, there's a lot of good material that you can get into and learn where the gaps are, where your parenting skills are concerned, the mistakes you have made, and how you can rectify them. All these forums, let's invest. Let's invest in ourselves to be better parents. I mean, we go for evening classes, short courses here and there, to become better in our careers. But careers are neither here nor there. You'll be a parent for the longest of time, until eternity. So let's also take some time and invest in ourselves to become good parents. If you see a book, buy a book. Dr. Caro has a book, buy it. Washeke has a book, buy it. Pastor Simon has books, buy them, read. Let's invest in ourselves, let's grow, because then we become better parents and we will end up correcting our mistakes and raising better children who will become better parents in the future.
Amen. And of course, be sure, guys, to follow James Okumu every week in the morning on Family Media, on radio and on TV, right? Every morning,
yes.
7 to 9, right?
6 to 9.
6 to 9.
Yes.
Excellent. So as you drive, as you get held up in traffic, please listen to that, and very good conversations that happen there. Sophie, as we finish with you, you'll also tell us a little bit about, just very briefly about EZA. There's a lady who's asking a few details, but Dr. Caro, what are your last words that you would just encourage the parents with?
We've talked about discipline at length, and yes, we probably need several sessions to really do that topic justice. And there's so much that goes into discipline, and we all have really contributed so greatly in terms of discipline is about discipleship. Discipline is about training. Discipline is about showing up with authority and confidence as a parent. Even as we are thinking about all these things, we also need to understand that children misbehave for certain reasons. And so one of the things that we really also need to begin to think about is, why do children misbehave? Okay. And of course, one is because they haven't been trained. Two is because we are not such great role models, but also it's also because they have such fundamental psychological, emotional needs that if those needs are not met, then they will look for misbehavior to be able to try and get attention. And that's why Pastor James is talking about being present, because if you are not present, they will there's that fundamental need for attention. I call it a bucket that needs to be filled. And that bucket of attention says, hey, I am unique. Can you see me? Can you see me, please? I'm special. So we also need to understand that there's also very many underlying reasons for why children misbehave, and we need to open ourselves up again, get the information as we are being told, attend the different platforms, so that we get to understand what are these needs, and how do I position myself as a parent to be wholesome enough to meet those needs in a way that is consistent. So even as I'm thinking about meeting those needs for a child, I'm also thinking about how am I taking care of myself so that I can meet those needs. So again, parenting with your heart is about being sure that you're taking care of yourself first, that you're going for therapy if you need to go for therapy, that you're connecting with the communities around you, that you are nourishing your soul spiritually, physically, you know, any way you need to nourish yourself, so that now you can be able to be in a place where you can show up effectively. And I do have a whole course on discipline. It's actually, again, if you go to drcaro.co.ke, I have 4 sessions on discipline, and I start with, let's investigate why children misbehave. Let's look at some of the mistakes we make in discipline, because sometimes, like I talked about earlier, we are reactors as opposed to being parents who respond. So we are very, very quick to fix a behavior, and yet we haven't really taken a step back and asked ourselves these really critical questions. And so it's also 4 sessions, and you can also access that as well, and take advantage of it. And there's always coaching for those spaces that you're feeling really, really, really stuck. And finally, it's just never too late. You know, we cannot tell ourselves that we've lost it and we can't go back. So let's do what we need to do to restart, refresh, reset, so that we can continue growing as our children are growing.
I think we should find help if we need help. Let's not pretend we're okay when we're not okay. Let's continue to experience good parenting. Washeke, let's come to you.
Okay, I think just my last comments are just about that. Remember, our goal is not to raise good kids, it's to raise good humans. Because if it was just about keeping them as kids, then we can stay in our bubble, in our comfort zone. If it was just about keeping my son as a kid, he would never be exposed to social media. Then he'd be a good kid. That's my comfort, yeah? But we are raising good human beings, and let's focus on that, because as parents, we are custodians of our children. We do not own them. God owns them, not us, yeah? We are custodians, yeah? And to just understand that even as we are custodians of our kids, to look at the world out there, because if God has given us these children in a time such as now, it means they are going to be problem solvers in this same world that we are complaining about and we have challenges with. So let's raise them with that in mind. So we've got to do that. We've got to be very, very intentional, about it. Intentional, first of all, with ourselves, and just get to the place where we have also investigated ourselves. I don't think we can be perfect, but we can avoid as much as possible not throwing too much baggage on them that's not going to work for them, that is just going to become heavier and heavier baggage. I think even as Africans, we're in an interesting time, because we're not just raising survivors. We are raising people who are going to be problem solvers and wealth creators for the community, for the countries, and for the continent. And we've got to start. Even why money is so important at this age is that because it prepares them for that. If you can't manage 100 shillings, you can't manage 1,000,000 shillings. But I need you to be able to manage 1,000,000 shillings and not get lost in 1,000,000 shillings because of the world that you're going to. And I want you to be a problem solver in whatever way God has purposed for you in that world. So just to keep that in mind, so that we understand it's not just about us. It's not just about our comfort. It's about where they are going. Last week, I kept thinking about what we talked about, the village, and how it has changed. And maybe the village before was literally the village. It's people we know, in our comfort zone. But just to expand, what should the village be given where they are going? So you may find is the village could be a community, it could be a group, it could be a youth group, it could be some workshops you put up your kids to, yourself and your kids to. So it's just to expand our thinking of what this village should be. And I know even just being on this journey, it's just that the right information, and maybe James will agree with me, the right information unfortunately does not get as much attention as the bad information. The influencer who's a proper influencer, as in they influence people to make the right decisions in their lives, unfortunately do not get the right attention, unlike the other influencer who's influencing in the wrong direction. So it is us to help our kids and ourselves as well. It's not just our kids, even us as adults. Sometimes we get caught up in listening to the wrong noise, to find and seek the right information, the right community, and the right knowledge. But just like I said yesterday, it's just to reinforce that it has to be an intentional journey. It can no longer be one day when you're 18, one day when you're 25, you will figure it out for yourself.
That's right.
I know we don't like facing it because we are scared. We have fear about facing it. So we just hope. I just hope you'll figure out money. I just hope you'll figure out career. I just hope you'll do it, because I'm so scared of immersing you myself in your world, which I don't understand. So I just hope somehow you'll figure it out, because you're my child. You should be perfect. So let's stop holding on to that fear and walk the journey together with our kids. We are not perfect, and let's not claim to be perfect. Neither we will never be, but let's walk the journey for ourselves and our kids and future generations that will change because of the decisions that we're making today.
Excellent. There's just so much to say, and I want to have some.
Okay. I think Simon has hung for a minute. Okay. All right. So I think I'll just go and say thank you, James.
And understand the children, and then also understand our interaction together. So it's really about understanding ourselves as parents and managing ourselves well, understanding our children, and then once we understand where they're coming from, we'll be able to interact with them in a good way. And let's use all the resources available. Sophia, you can conclude for us about Ezra, and then just a brief prayer.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Pastor Simon, you were hanging a bit, but we got the essence of what you were saying. So as before I say what I want to say, let me talk about Ezra. Someone is asking about Ezra on the chat, and Ezra is the equivalent of Money Now. We offer that program at Transformations, and if you go to our page, Transformations on Facebook, you should be able to find more details on that page about the ESA program. It's for adult women, and it's just about figuring out the different aspects of femininity. And it's a life-changing program. I want to welcome you to get more information and sign up. And then now that you're talking about parenting, we also have parenting programs, Intentional Dads and Intentional Mom, where we just talk about some of the things in depth that we are trying to address here. So you're also welcome to check that out on our Transformations page. My final words about our conversation here is that I like a book that is written by, I believe it is James Dobson, that says, parenting is not for cowards. I kid you not, it is not for cowards. It takes a lot of courage to show up, even when sometimes you have no clue what needs to be done, because in a way, there are paths that our children are walking in this age that we never walked before, in very many ways. But I want to say this, that God identifies himself as Father. He says he's our Father. He's the Father of creation. And what consoles me is that God is far much more interested in the welfare and the future of my children more than I could ever be. And so when I speak to my children, I tell them, look, I love you so much. I want the best for you, but I want to know you to know that more than what mom could ever do, more than how much she could love you, there is a God who loves you more, who will always be present in ways that I cannot be for you. And I think we need to point our children to a higher power, a God who who fills up for our gaps and our limitations. And I'm very deliberate about, pointing the children that God has given us in that direction, saying that where I happen to fail you as a parent, please know that I'm just human, that I don't have everything together, but I am responsible for you, and I want you to have a relationship with God. And then finally, I'd say that when our children, veer off the path that we desire for them, let us not be discouraged. Let us take that as an opportunity, for us to engage with them. Let us look at that as feedback to us as parents. We call that in educational circles, learning gaps. And where there are learning gaps, then you offer remedial classes or courses or action. And so when my children fail, in a way, I actually am grateful. I see it positively and I say, okay, this is feedback. This is for me an indication of a gap that needs to be addressed through training, whether it is fresh training or revisiting training that you have done before, whatever it is, and to know that ultimately it shall be well. It shall be well with our children. Every generation of parent fears for their children. Even our own parents, by the way, they feared for us, but look at us. We are not doing too bad. By God's grace, we have made it. So just understanding that we are not alone, that parenting is not our responsibility by ourselves, that God is invested in the lives of our children, and so to constantly involve Him, even as we parent. So it shall be well. Be encouraged, and I think that if we just be faithful with what we know, and we become students of our of our children, just to understand them, and to allow God to parent us through our children, I think it shall be well. So let's gather confidence and let God help us. So did you want me to pray, Simon?
Yeah, I think you could just say a brief prayer because of time, just to bless the parents as we close.
All right, let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this time that you have given us to, talk together concerning this great responsibility that you have given us as parents. I want to pray for every parent that is represented on this call, and those that are viewing, and those that will view this recording many days after today. And I want to pray that for each and every one of them who is watching, there will be a word in season, a word that will encourage them, an opportunity for instruction and encouragement. We want to pray for our children, the children of this nation, and ask that God is going to watch over them, shepherd their hearts, and be the light upon their path, oh God. Lead them in ways that we never could as parents. And we ask that ultimately your name will be glorified, and that your will be done in the lives of our children and our families, even as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you very much, Sophia. Thank you, Acheke. Thank you, Dr. Carol. Thank you, Pastor James. We have had a great conversation. Sorry, those of you who joined us, we have extended a bit, but these conversations cannot be hurried. So we continue next week. We want to invite you to continue with us this entire season. We're going to be talking at different aspects of our children and of parenting. And so Karibuni, and thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Pano. You've been excellent. We look forward to hosting you again. Have a good night, everyone, and blessings.
Bye. God bless.
All right, bye.
God bless you. Bye.
Amen.
Bye.